Coaching Soccer Weekly, episode 380, Offside Trap, entertaining, educational, and inspiring soccer content to help make you a more effective coach, player, or soccer parent. Hello and welcome back to Coaching Soccer Weekly, presented by World Class Coaching. My name is Sega Verbinovich, and this is the podcast devoted to bringing you cutting-edge methods, techniques, and tactics for coaching soccer. It doesn't matter if you're an experienced coach who has been training teams for many years, or if you're new to coaching and working with the team for the very first time. There's something we can all do to take our coaching to the next level. Welcome back to the show. This week I got to start off by apologizing for not putting out an episode last week. I lost my voice and I was also sick, so it just wasn't in the cards to record the podcast. But I'm back this week and we have a lot to talk about. What I actually did last week, because I was losing my voice and I still had to attend games, was I brought out one of my favorite things that I use in practice all the time, and it's a speaker. It's a headset. It's a wireless headset that attaches to a speaker, which you put as like a pouch thing, and it just allows you to not have to yell. And as someone who does this full time, my voice is something that I use so often. So it's something that I have to take care of. And I think it's something to consider. I just bought it off Amazon. I think it was like $30 or something, but there's like so many different types. You just need something that, goes on as a headset and has a mic and that's pretty much it. So for the first time this past weekend, I used it in the games, and the looks that I got, people were curious. People were definitely judging and weirded out. But I've gotten to the point where that really doesn't bother me. So if you're looking for a coach that stands out, just from an appearance point of view, to know that it's me, it's very, very simple to find out who I am on the field. I'm the guy wearing the bucket hat. I'm the guy with the speaker. Yeah. So if you ever see someone, black bucket hat, speaker now, orange, yellow, gradient shirt, that's me. That's me. So, yeah. And I know I'm going to get more looks and more people, but you know what? It doesn't matter. I did it wasn't a full episode, but it was a full kind of segment on your coach. Yes, but you got to take care of yourself. Sunscreen, water, all the necessities. And now it looks like the voice is a necessity too, and it allows you not to scream. It allows you just to talk, but having this kind of pitch, I don't know if pitch is the right word, but when you're screaming, it sounds angry. Now I can talk, and this is exactly what the players hear. They hear talking. They don't hear yelling, which I think is actually a lot better as well. For those that follow me on social media, it's either on my Instagram or on my YouTube. I uploaded something, I guess, on my Reels on my Instagram, which I thought I posted on anyway, in my YouTube. And it was a highlight of our game, and it was the very first play. And it was something that seems like everything that we've worked on from the beginning of the Academy's inception, and to watch it come together. And I'm going to talk you through the highlight here. We started from the center. We passed it to the winger. This is our 2015. So we're playing a 2-3-1 to the winger. Winger back to the defender. The defender then goes back to the winger. The winger does a fake shot, resets to the defender. The defender then resets to the goalkeeper. This was our this was a substitute goalkeeper. He brings it back to the winger. to the defender to the center mid to the winger, and now we've started to cross half. There, the ball comes back to the center midfielder who does a Maradona turn around a player, plays a perfect through ball to our forward who scores. And it was just the combination of everything that we've talked about. And to see it with such a young team was one of the proudest moments I've had as a coach. And it was the combination of, first of all, the 1v1 move, seeing a Maradona turn to beat a player. Then also the fact that they recognize to reset the ball so that they can get open again to receive it back, and to reset it back all the way to the goalkeeper versus resetting it to just the defender, and when to go forward, when to go back, the through ball, the shot for the goal. It was just everything together that really impressed me. And this was half 2015, half 2014. So half of that team was playing up a year. And to me, that was just everything at that point. But last week, let's talk about the games. They played really well. I had 2 games that weekend. It was a 2014 game that I went to, which was that one. And then I also went to a 2013 game. And what I really realized in the 2013 game is how much of a difference it makes when you have a goalkeeper on your team. And it just so happens that this month, 2 of our goalkeepers are away. Our 2013 goalkeeper and our 2014 goalkeeper. And with them gone, the teams have really started to struggle on a defensive point of view. And it really, really brings me back to when I first started the academy and we just didn't have a goalkeeper. And we were getting goals and goals scored on. We were still scoring, but if you score 4 goals and the other team scores 5, it doesn't really help you. And that's what happened that week. You know, we played really well, but got 6 goals scored against us. You know, the ball went back to the goalkeeper. The player who wasn't used to that situation didn't know what to do. So he made mistakes. Shots that wouldn't have gone in with our goalkeepers went in. So it just emphasizes how important it is to have a goalkeeper coach, a goalkeeper program within your academy or within your club, and to really have specialized goalkeeper training for players that want to do it. Right now, I know that some coaches at the younger ages, they, rotate goalkeepers, and I love that. That's something that we would do if we didn't have players that only wanted to be goalkeepers. So when a player shows even one of our goalkeepers and they're like, we want to play out, we let them play out, and we let them play goalkeeper. So we let them do both. But it was just something that, I thought of as kind of the goalkeepers were away. This week, we analyzed the game from this past weekend, and we used Theo for that. If you're looking for some way to record your games, please look at Theo. We have a really great discount for you, $200 off. I think they're still doing the iPad special where you get a free iPad with it. It's a great recording device and a really great marketing tool and a tool for your players to see what they're doing wrong and how to improve, which I really like. Now, when we watched the VO this week, I did actually something a little different where I went and we watched the game that we struggled with, but we also watched a little bit of the Canada-Nigeria game. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about that because that was a really big emphasis of what we were doing this week from a Canada point of view. But what we struggled with was defending. We struggled with, and this is our 2012 team, so we really struggled with 1v1 defending, but more importantly, team defending and understanding those concepts of how we should be acting in relation to each other. So in order to kind of show the players how they should act, what I did was we started watching the Canada and Nigeria game. Now, this is the World Cup game. And for those that didn't watch it, the score was 0-0. And this is a huge blow for Canada. Absolutely huge blow for Canada. And in my opinion, what the Canadian team didn't do well was in the final third. They did everything amazingly up till the final third. They built out of the back really well. They played as a team. I really liked just the way they played overall. But the problem was they would get the ball to the wingers. The wingers would cross the ball and hope for the best. And I hate that approach. I really don't like that. I don't think that's intelligent soccer. I really don't. You can't just put a ball in when the other team has 5 players in the box and hope that your attacker will somehow produce something mad. That's not it. You got to provide and create these situations for your forwards. So for me, what Nigeria did really well was compact space. They made sure that they were communicating. There were players pointing to each other and just a lot of really good defensive actions. So what we did was we watched the game. We watched how Nigeria were able to defend. And with that, we were able to compare to what we weren't doing right. And I think that's a really important lesson for players, right? To be able to watch what success looks like and then watch their performance and see what the discrepancies are between those two things, right? And there are so many different ways to do that, right? For us, it's getting on Zoom Monday nights. And, you know, because everything is being streamed now, right? Then you can bring back the game that were streamed, that are recorded, and just watch, you know. And we've done this many times on our Zoom sessions where we'd watch Manchester City, right? We're really focusing on attack, or I really want to emphasize a specific point that I saw, for example, that Arsenal makes, right? In the way that they play in the final third. And then I bring that in and then I use Theo to show the players a situation where this is what we're lacking, right? Now, I am recording this on a Tuesday. Team Canada is playing again tomorrow. And my hope is that they worked on playing in the final third. That's really important, especially for a national team who doesn't play together that often. You know, before it was a lot simpler for teams because most of the professional setup was in the US. So the Canadians would go, they would play professionally in the US, and then it would be a lot easier to get players together. A lot of players were playing with each other, so there was already that level of just knowing where the other person is going to be. But now, you know, with the rise now of England, who's doing really great things for women's soccer, the Spain program as well, La Liga, doing really well. Germany, right now, the US is still obviously one of the top programs, but it's not so much concentrated in one country. So players aren't playing together that often anymore, right? Players are coming from different countries and it's becoming really an international setup. So it's tough. And you need to have a plan going into a World Cup of what to do in each phase of the game. And that includes the final third as well, right? That's the most important part. You need to score goals to win. You have 3 games in a group stage in a World Cup. And again, this was the problem with the men's program. You can't move on with just tying. It doesn't work like that anymore. So I was pretty disappointed with it. Now, for those that watch the Canada game, you know, we missed a penalty shot, but that's not important to me. I don't think you can rely on a penalty shot to get you a win. So for me, missing the penalty shot wasn't a big deal. You know, that's not important to me. You need to be able to score goals. And a team that you're playing against, if you have, you know, 70% possession and most of the game is in the other team's half, and you're not scoring a goal, there's a problem. And that problem is the final third. So they really struggled with that. And that motivated me to make sure that our players didn't struggle with it this weekend. So we did a lot of work in the final third in practice this past week. And this is the game where I do a midfield against midfield, and then I add neutrals as defenders. So let's say it's blue against yellow, and the defenders are neutrals. If blue has the ball, blue can reset to the neutral and then find space or whatever that is, and then get the ball back and attack. Now, the way that I have it set up is that I have a box or a rectangle, I guess, in the middle third. And the idea is I want our team to get the ball into the half space in the final third. And then from there, we can do a cutback, which is different than a cross. A cutback is on the ground, a cross is in the air, and I want them to find players. So the rules of the game change based on what I want to work on. If I want to work more on switching the ball, I'll give maybe a minimum of 15 passes before we can attack. But this week, I wanted to get into that final third. So what I said was, okay, let's get in there as fast as possible. But the only way to score is with a cutback and a one-time finish. So that's the only way to score. So we did that. And to be honest, this weekend, we scored a lot of goals. We did. And it was really great. But the defending was something that we haven't really worked on. And team defending and 1v1 defending is a core concept that I think our players are just not motivated by. And I don't think it's just our players. It's something that I see a lot of. It's players giving up in the 1v1 battle. And I think a lot of it has to do with what they're seeing in the media. Most of the players that are on, the famous players, right? You think about Messi, Mbappe, Ronaldo, Harry Kane, Kevin De Bruyne, Haaland, all these players are attacking players. It's very rare that a defender will get the same glory as the attacker and be praised by the media in the same way that the attackers are. Now, don't get me wrong. You have games where, the commentator will say, oh, Kyle Walker has been instrumental in this game and all this. But even in those games, the forwards are the ones that are getting the praise at the end of it, right? And they're the ones that are getting more consistent praise. So players see that, and because they see that, they go, well, defending is not that important. And it's becoming a huge problem. And I'm starting to see that within our players. On top of that, it's not really helping that we're very focused on attack. So with us, the changes that we're going to continue to make, because we've already made those changes, is within our 1v1 sessions, when our players sit down after the first 3-minute battle, it's defense that we're talking about. And it's defense consistently that we're going to start to really drill into the players. The tactical game, it's going to be the exact same thing, but now we're going to have defense versus forward, right? And we're really going to get them to understand how to defend in that final third. There was a lot of crosses against us where the other team was just completely open, and we can't have that. So before we would do midfield versus midfield, now we have defense versus forwards. And when I say forwards, when we attack, even in our 3-4-1, we push our wingers up. So we're actually playing with a front three, right? And then we can also push up the attacking midfields as well and have them as the neutral two. So then you can then do a 3v3 plus 2, where the midfielders are the neutrals. And when the defenders win the ball and they get the ball to the midfielders, they get a point. But if the attackers score, then they get a point, right? So you're still getting that repetition of nonstop. So they're not just kicking it out. They're not just kicking it to the wings with 2 nets in the wide space, right? Which a lot of coaches do, which is fine. I understand the point of that. Get the ball high up to the wingers. What this does is if a defender wins the ball and they pass that ball to the midfielder who is already in that position, it's a great job. That's exactly what we want. But I don't want the drill to restart. I want it to be an activity. I want it to continue to go and go and go. So that's something that we're going to do. Now, what I also wanted to talk about was the offside trap. Now, the offside trap is not something that we've worked on that much. And it's very difficult to do it because of the way that we play. And the reason it's difficult for us is because we play players up a lot. So some of our 2013s who played in the 2012 game this weekend, they don't have offsides in 2013. It's still 7v7, right? So there are situations where players are playing up and they have no idea what an offside is. So if you put them on defense and one player steps up, then it's a problem, right? But that's just something within our academy. But regardless, we're going to start to talk about it, right? And it's really going to be the responsibility of the goalkeeper to push our players up. But having said all that, I have started introducing offsides. And the way that I did that was the midfield versus midfielder game. And I would say this: there would be a white line which would encompass, it's a white box. And for those that are on the soccer coaching mastermind, you've seen how I run the sessions. I use something that's called, I think it's called Portafield. Yeah, it's called Portafield, which is a white kind of like volleyball marker. I don't know what you like. It's not a string, but it's like it's a white line that's foldable, and essentially we make a box with it, and that's what we use to train. So that box, the end of the box, is actually what turns into the final third. So if you can imagine a half of the field, it would go goal line to the 18, there would be nothing there. From the 18 to half is a white box. So what I would say was the only way to get into that white box would be that the pass has to start before you are in the box. So you can't be waiting for the ball in the box. That's offside. So that's really how we started teaching the offside. But now what we want to do in this final third game is really start to talk about the offside trap. Now, here's the question. Where did I come up with this? Where did I come up with the specific strategies? And that's a great question. Now, I did something really cool that I am so excited for. And this is only available on soccercoachingmastermind.com. There are times where I go into what I like to call a YouTube dive. And a YouTube dive is when I find a video that I really like and I see a really cool concept or something that I want to get out of it. And then it leads me to a different video. So I'll look up that topic and I'll continue to do that for about 4 hours until I get into a ridiculous video that just blows my mind. And this is what happened. And it really started with Johan Cruyff. So again, I know I'm saying Cruyff wrong. I know that. But because I'm listening to his autobiography, I started watching a lot of videos of him playing, a lot of his games, old games, just to kind of see his movements and stuff like that. And then other videos popped up and this and that, and other national teams that they were playing against. And in the 80s, one of the dominant national teams was Italy. And in Italy, one of the most iconic coaches is Arrigo Sacchi. Now, I watched one of his training sessions from the 1980s, and he was playing with a 4-4-2 on defense, and that really started my thought process on defending and the offside trap. And he did some different sessions. Now, again, the way that he did it, I'm not going to do the same way because he's working with adults. He's working in the 1980s, completely different than what I'm doing. But the concepts were still there of offside trap, how the defensive line moves up, back, forward, sideways, left, right. And it really opened my eyes to when those moments should be happening. So let's talk about it. And if you do want to see that video, it is up on soccercoachingmastermind.com. And I put that under a new category, which is called iconic videos. Now, iconic videos are videos that I found that are either historical, and some random person on YouTube put it up and it only has like 1,000 views or something, and it's from like 10 years ago. It's just something that is just not mainstream and not something that a lot of people know about. So this is again on Coaching Software Mastermind. And if you want access to that, it's only $10 a month, which is like coffee a week with me. And yeah, that's it. So let's talk about it, what I saw in the offside trap. What I don't really like in general is being reactive. If I'm being reactive, it means that I'm waiting for someone else to do something and I'm giving them control over the situation. So we take control of the situation in our 1v1s in attack when we do a fake. So when I fake one way, I take control because I'm forcing the defender to react to something that I'm doing. However, even though I don't like it, unfortunately, with the way that he coached his defensive line, it really does make sense to be reactive in those situations. So here is what I saw. Whenever there's a negative action by the opposing team who has the ball, that's a trigger for my defensive line to push up. So what's a negative reaction, right? A negative action would be anything that doesn't go forward. So a through ball is a positive action. A pass back is a negative action. A pass sideways is a negative action. My defenders winning the ball is a negative action, right? Because the other team is not moving up. So therefore, that is going to be a trigger where we push up. So it's up to, for me, the goalkeeper to recognize that at the younger ages and tell specific players to push up at those moments. So let's say the midfielder has the ball on the opposing team and he receives it. He doesn't like his options forward. He turns back, passes the ball to the defender. That's a moment for us to push up, okay, and push the other team up higher and higher and higher. And what we're doing with that is also a little bit dangerous because we're creating more space between the defensive line and the goalkeeper, right? So at that point, it's got to be the goalkeeper that pushes up and then asks the attacking team to the defensive line to push up. Because the space between the goalkeeper and the defensive line has to be consistent. And if it's not, that's when it becomes a race, right? So usually the teams that we play against, they'll kick a long ball and they'll have their fastest, strongest player as their forward. So it makes it very difficult if we leave a lot of space in between the goalkeeper and the defensive line to get that ball. They'll get there before a goalkeeper and then we're done for. So I always tell our goalkeepers that that ball that comes between the defense and you is your ball. That's it. And then that way they know how much they need to come up in order to make sure that those long balls are okay, that we're okay with it. So therefore, they're the ones that have to tell the players to push up, the defensive line to push up. And this week, what I've been doing is really working with our goalkeepers a lot. So a lot of the session was actually just letting the players play and really focusing on the goalkeeper and their instructions. So what I would do in these half games is I would send the ball to the wide space in the final third, and then I would talk to the goalkeeper and say, don't worry about the ball in the wide space. Don't worry about it. They can't score from there, right? So as that ball is going into that wide space, it is now the goalkeeper's job to focus on the players in the middle. And that's really what we were working on for a lot of that half game, along with making sure that the players are goal-sided, right? And we talk about that as block, right? We want you to block your player. And I really gave each player 1v1 in each half space so they know who they're playing against. And as a start, it's really important for them to understand that that's the player and that's their responsibility. And what I said was I brought them in after about 15 minutes and I said, listen, if your player scores, the player that you are supposed to be marking, that's on you. That player is your responsibility. So you really have to focus on blocking them, right? And I really want players to start taking responsibility on defense because they're taking responsibility on offense, right? They're taking responsibility because they have the ball and they're attacking 1v1. So they're going for it, which is great. But on defense, when we don't have the ball, that's when a lot of them kind of give the responsibility to someone else. So that's what we were working on in that session. And it worked out really well. I think for the first time, just the players understanding of how to mark players off the ball when the ball is in the wide space. I think it's a very difficult skill to have at the younger ages to, when the ball isn't in your area, to still be marking your players. But that was it for this week so far. Next week, I'll come back and talk about exactly the session that I ran and really a lot more about that defending part because that's what we're going to be focusing on. Now, it is Wednesday morning now, and I did watch the Canada game. I'll talk about that probably next week as well, maybe, but a much better second half. The goal that we scored that really mattered was a ball into the half space, from the half space into the center space, and then we scored. It wasn't a big cross from the wide space. So, maybe they just needed a game to get into it, but really good from Canada. Second half, the first half, same issues. I got to say, Haidema played really, really well in that game, and I think I was tough on her when I was analyzing that first game, but she played an excellent game. Schmidt, who came on in the second half, really made a big impact in that midfield. So, I think now that we've seen Canada play 2 full games, the coach, Bev, has a really big decision to make in that third game and who her starting 11 is going to be. And that's really going to say a lot about her coaching, I think, how she plays that last game. Because those players in the second half, in my opinion, really earn the right to start in the next game. Thanks for listening to another episode of Coaching Soccer Weekly. For the next 3 weeks, the primary concern is going to be defending, and that's really what the podcasts are going to be all about moving forward. We have 3 weeks until our next games. We also have 3 weeks until our 2010s are back in a tournament. So we're going to be really working hard, first 1v1 defending, and then tactical defending with all the teams, so that hopefully by the time we get back, we're just not going to get a lot of goals conceded on us. That, I think, is the next level of evolution that we really need to take into consideration. And if you're enjoying the show and you're looking for ways to help support the show, you can always subscribe to my Instagram or my YouTube pages, which is just Gladiator Soccer Academy. Sometimes on Instagram, I go live during games, and on YouTube, I post some of our team's games as well. On Instagram, I post updates and highlights and things like that. So just a really cool way to stay in touch. And if you want to help support the show even more, then you can subscribe to Coaching Soccer Mastermind. And that's really where I share everything that I know and everything that I've gone through. And you can find a lot of different clips and videos and tactics and 1v1 instruction, and anything that I've ever talked about the podcast is on there. So it's a great way to support the show and support me. Really helps me. I do the show for free. So if that's something that you're interested in, it's just $10 a month, which really goes a long way for me. But until next week.
Hey, thanks for watching all the way to the end. And you can check out more of our videos right here. And if you haven't done so already, I would really appreciate it if you'd hit the like button and the subscribe button.